Welcome to Making Memoir Magic, the podcast where we unlock the power of your story and guide you through the magical process of turning life experiences into memoirs that inspire and impact. I'm your host, Carrie Kreisman, a memoir mentor and storytelling champion, and I'm here to help you find the courage to embrace your unique story and share it with the world. Whether you're just starting out or refining your final draft, this is the place to be for practical tips, inspiration, and the encouragement you need to write the memoir only you can tell. Ready to make some magic? Let's dive in. Welcome back to the Making Memoir Magic podcast, where we talk about how to find the stories that matter, write them with courage and authenticity, and turn your lived experiences into something meaningful for your readers and yourselves. I'm Carrie Kreisman, author of the memoir Accidental First Lady, and I'm an author mentor and someone who believes that you don't need to have an extraordinary life to have an extraordinary story to tell. Today, I want to start with a sticker, a whole bunch of stickers actually. They belonged to my paternal grandmother, Nana, who lived to be almost 94 years old. Nana and my grandfather lived in a small mid-century home just down the street from the house where I grew up. My grandfather came through Ellis Island at age 5, arriving from Santa Maria de Licodia, Sicily in 1913. He eventually built that little house where they lived for many years by himself. And extending from the kitchen of that home into the dining room was a bar. And for decades after my grandfather died, that bar became home to something our family lovingly called Nana's I Voted Shrine. Every time Nana voted, she brought home her I Voted sticker. She dated it, saved it, and she proudly added it to her collection. So we used to lovingly tease her about it. And it was just one of those little Nana things. It was something we would tell people about others. We'd reminisce about it. And we remembered it fondly. And yes, it might have been a quirky habit, but that's what we remember in our families, right? About, favorite aunt or, our grandparents or whatever. It's the sayings, the things they collected, the recipes they made every holiday, the chair that nobody was allowed to sit in except that person. My grandfather had one of those. And the weird little things that everybody in the family knew about. So for years, that was what Nana's stickers were to me. Just a funny family story. But then they really weren't, okay? Years later, I realized there was so much more to them, and I understand those stickers differently now. And that difference is what I want to talk to you about today, because it illustrates one of the most important lessons I can teach you about writing memoir. It is that the memory is not the memoir. The memory is what happened. The memoir is what you understand about what happened. And there's a very big difference between the two. I recently wrote about Nana's stickers in my Sunday newsletter, Life Lived and Written, because we just had primary elections here in Florida. And election season always brings back memories for me. For 22 years, politics was woven into the fabric of my family's life. Throughout most of our marriage and our children's lives, my husband, Rick, was either running for office or serving in elected office. There were 8 campaigns, 7 victories, campaign signs and election nights and television commercials and events and phone calls, so many phone calls. And there was also middle of the night phone calls that came when my husband was mayor because something had happened in the city that required his immediate attention. That chapter of our lives ended more than 4 years ago, and our lives are much quieter now, but election season still feels familiar. Friends still text me asking what we think about the candidates. Rick still gets questions on races and issues in campaigns. And it reminded me that just because a chapter of your life is over doesn't mean the stories from that chapter stop mattering. And while I was thinking about voting and voice, I thought about Nana. So here's what I hadn't really considered when I was younger. Nana was born into an America where women did not have the constitutional right to vote. The 19th Amendment was ratified when she was just 12 years old. 12. Now think about that. By the time I knew Nana, voting was something that women just did. Of course she could vote. Of course my mother could vote. And of course I would grow up and vote. I didn't have to think about it. But Nana had lived close enough to a different America to understand something I didn't. I wonder now what she felt when she cast her first ballot. Was she excited, proud? Did she understand the significance of it? Did her mother talk about it? I don't know. And how I wish I had asked, if only I had known. But when I look back at those stickers, or at least the memory of them, I know somewhere we have a picture, and I really wish I could find it, but I see more than a quirky collection. I see tiny declarations that say, I was here, I participated, I had a say, my voice counted. The stickers haven't changed. I have, and that's where the memoir is. There is, in that conundrum, if you will, is something that aspiring memoirists often struggle with. They tell me, I have so many stories, or I've been through so much, or my family keeps telling me I need to write all of this down. And my answer is yes, write it down, capture those memories. But eventually, memoir asks you to do something more, because memoirs are simply not just a record of everything that happened to you. If it were, we'd essentially be writing long diaries. I was born, then this happened, then I married this person, then we moved here, then the kids were born. That is chronology. Memoir requires reflection. Memoir asks us to answer the question, why does this memory matter? And why am I still carrying it? What do I understand that I couldn't understand then? And how did this experience change me? And perhaps most importantly, memoir begs us to answer, what might my reader recognize about their own life because I've told them about mine? So that's when your personal experience becomes something much larger. So there's another craft concept connected to this that I want you to think about. When you're writing a memoir, you often have two versions of yourself on the page. There's you who lived the experience, and there's you who is writing it now. Those two people are different things. The younger me looked at Nana's stickers and thought, there she goes again, another sticker to the collection. The present day me looks at them and thinks about women's suffrage. I think about voice and legacy and how easily we can take something for granted that someone only a few generations before us fought to receive. I also think, why didn't I ask her about this? That question itself contains reflection. And reflection is one of the things that gives memoir its depth. And your job as the memoirist isn't to pretend that the younger version of you knew everything that you know today. She didn't. Let her be confused. Let him misunderstand. Let that younger version of you make the wrong assumption. Then allow the wiser, older narrator to occasionally step onto the page and say, here's what I couldn't see then. That's where some of your most powerful writing may live. So let me give you something practical that you can use this week in your writing. I call it then, now, meaning method. Choose one memory, not necessarily the biggest or most dramatic that has ever happened to you. Actually, I encourage you to start smaller. Okay, it makes it more doable. Then answer 3 questions. First, then, what happened? Just tell me the memory. Where were you? Who was there? Who could you see? What could you hear? What happened? Don't worry about explaining it just yet. For me, it would be, if I use this example, Nana saved her I voted stickers on the bar between her kitchen and dining room. That's the memory. So the second part of this is the now. Ask yourself, what do I understand about this memory that I didn't understand when I was living it? This is where your present day perspective comes into the story. Maybe you finally understand why your mother behaved in a certain way. Maybe something your father said makes sense now that you're a parent yourself. Maybe you recognize that something you considered completely normal in your childhood wasn't normal at all. Or maybe something you once thought was insignificant now feels incredibly precious. You changed. Your perspective changed. So, what changed about the way you see the memory? And third is the meaning. Why does this belong in your memoir? What larger idea does it illuminate? Is it love, belonging, identity, ambition, loss, motherhood, resilience, faith, forgiveness, voice, legacy, something else? For me, Nana's stickers opened a door into voice and legacy. And once I saw that connection, the memory became much more than a collection of stickers. So follow the object. Here's another technique I love to use. This is something else you can try, particularly if you're sitting there thinking, Carrie, I don't know which memory to use. So start with an object. Objects are wonderful doorways into memoir. What you would do is think about your childhood home. Don't try to remember your entire childhood, though. That is enormous. Instead, picture one room. Now look around. What do you see? Maybe it's your mother's recipe box, your father's work boots, a chipped serving platter, a Christmas ornament, your grandfather's watch, a record player, an old telephone, a sewing machine, a casserole dish, a photograph that was always on the same shelf, or maybe it's a bunch of little I voted stickers stuck to a bar. Just pick one and follow it. Ask yourself, who touched this? Where was it kept? What happened around it? What emotions are connected to it? What did I believe in it then? What do I understand about it now? And what story does this object unlock? This is why I often tell memoir writers, enter through the small door. You don't always need to begin with an enormous event. Sometimes the smallest detail opens into the biggest room. I also want to emphasize, because I hear some version of this all the time, my life isn't interesting enough for a memoir. So that's not true. I don't believe that. And here's why. What makes a memoir compelling isn't simply the magnitude of what happened. It's what the writer can help us understand about being human because it happened. A sticker can be about democracy. A recipe can be about immigration. A kitchen table can be about belonging. A dress can be about identity. A family vacation can be about the moment you realized your parents' marriage was falling apart. An ordinary object can carry an extraordinary amount of meaning. So you don't have to manufacture importance. You just have to pay attention. There's a difference between the two. And frankly, I think that's one of the beautiful things about memoirs. Writing teaches us to look again at our families, ourselves, at the stories we've been told 100 times, at the things we dismissed as unimportant. Sometimes we look again and realize, oh, that's what that meant. So here's something that I would like for you to try this week. Choose one ordinary object or memory from your past and set a timer for 15 minutes and start with, I remember, and then write what happened. Stay in the scene, give me details, don't worry about making meaning from it yet. Then write, I didn't understand then, and see what comes up. And finally, now I know this is where I want you to linger. Don't force a revelation. Don't try to make the story profound. Just be curious, because curiosity is one of the memoirist's greatest tools. So ask yourself, why do I remember this? Why does it still make me so angry? Why does it make me laugh? Why can I still smell that kitchen? Why did she always do that? Why didn't I ask? Why does this matter to me now? Follow the questions. They may lead you somewhere you weren't expecting to go. So that brings me back to Nana. So we used to joke about the I voted shrine. Now I wish I could stand at the bar with her again and ask her about every sticker. Tell me about this election. Who did you vote for? Why? What did voting mean to you? What did your mother tell you about being a woman before women could vote? What did you feel the first time you walked into a voting booth? I can't ask those questions anymore, but I can write about those questions. I can preserve what I remember, and I can recognize the meaning I see in her actions now. And that's part of my legacy too. And it's part of yours. Because legacy isn't only the story you leave behind about yourself. It's the stories you preserve about the people who came before you. And sometimes by writing about them, you discover something about yourself. And so maybe that's the real invitation of memoir. Pay attention to what you've been carrying. Use your voice while you have it. Write down what you know, okay? And write it now. Ask the questions while there's still someone around to answer them. And don't dismiss the little stories. Someday, you may look at something you left behind and wonder what it meant to you. So give them some words to go with it and start writing about those objects, those memories, and happy writing. Comment, send me a note through Instagram or Facebook or my email, which will be in the link in the show notes. Let me know what you wrote about, and I'd love to know what your object was or your particular memory. And as always, thank you for joining me today on Making Memoir Magic. And if this episode brought a memory to mind, don't just think about it. Write it down. Start with I remember. Then ask yourself what you understand now that you couldn't understand then. Because the memory gives you the story, but the meaning, that's where the memoir begins. So until next time, keep writing and keep making memoir magic and believing that your story matters. Thank you for joining me on this episode of Making Memoir Magic. I hope today's conversation inspired you to take the next step toward telling your unique story through memoir. Remember, your story matters and someone out there is waiting to read it. If you enjoyed today's episode, don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. It helps others find the show. You can also connect with me on my website at carriekreisman.com, on Instagram at carrie.kreisman, or join my Facebook group, Memoir Magic for Aspiring Authors. You'll get more tips and inspiration on your memoir journey. And each Wednesday, I host a Memoir Magic write-in where you get to join other writers to accomplish the often arduous task of getting words on the page. Until next time, keep writing, keep sharing, and keep making memoir magic.